Hello and welcome to the news at this hour. My name is Elizabeth Mutfwang. The headlines. Federal government to begin gradual petrol subsidy removal in April. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed confirms. Festus Keyamo slams PDP's Atiku Abubakar over promise to give PDP members contracts. On the foreign scene, Putin's ally Medvedev warns NATO of nuclear war if Russia is defeated in Ukraine war. In sports news, Danny Ings joins West Ham from Aston Villa. And now the news in detail. President Muhammadu Buhari's government has announced it will begin the gradual removal of the petrol subsidy in the second quarter of 2023. The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, revealed this in her report, highlighting the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. We understand that the federal government's initial plan was to commence the subsidy removal in June, following an 18-month extension. Ahmed noted that the petrol subsidy removal will now begin April 2023, about 3 months ahead of the initial plan to effect a complete stop to the expenditure head. According to her, subsidy removal appears to be the position of all presidential candidates seeking to succeed the incumbent government. The chief spokesperson of the Tinubu-Shettima Presidential Campaign Council, Festus Keyamo, has berated the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, over a promise made to party supporters in Ogun State. Reports state that Atiku, during a meeting with PDP stakeholders and members in Abeokuta on Wednesday, promised to give contracts and appointments to those who win their polling units for the party. But in a swift reaction via a tweet on Wednesday, the Minister of State for Labour and Employment described the PDP flag bearer as a leopard who cannot change its skin. Keyamo asserted that Atiku is already promising contracts to political allies and has forgotten that the Public Procurement Act stipulates how contracts are awarded. Several Nigerian politicians and political candidates have made appearances at the Chatham House in London. The policy think tank, established by the British Institute of International Affairs, which for more than a century has served as a forum for the exchange of ideas and open expression, research and knowledge. Also known as the Royal Institute for International Affairs, it has hosted a broad spectrum of speakers and world leaders from different continents of the world. We hit the streets of this Federal Capital Territory to ask what Nigerians think of the idea of Nigeria's top politicians at Chatham House.
I've seen a write-up by one Yusuf Suleiman or something like of that nature, and I agree totally with that writer. That writer is saying what these top politicians are doing is quite wrong, giving relevance to an institute based in UK, that's United Kingdom, whereby we do have kind of a similar institute here locally in Nigeria. That's the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies. This is our national think tank here in Nigeria and in sub-Saharan Africa. Even some of these countries in Africa do send their participants to this particular institute. So this is the kind of institute whereby these politicians are supposed to go there to let Nigerians know about their policies. But unfortunately, they are going there to Chatham House. For me, it's contrarily, it's quite wrong.
They are discussing several things, and if really they follow up with some of these discussions, I think there will be a lot of improvements.
For me, as an individual, it's part of enslavement. Britain ruled us, and Britain and their cahoots are still ruling us. Britain and their dark cronies are still ruling us. Why should the Nigerian president go to Britain to tell them what they want to do? Which other country is doing it? Is any British official coming to vote for Nigeria here, or any British citizen? So for me, it's not a good idea. Let us do our campaign here, tell our people what we can do. And we Nigerians should assess those people who has this capacity.
On the foreign scene, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, an ally of Kremlin chief Vladimir Putin, warned NATO on Thursday, which is today, that the defeat of Russia in Ukraine could trigger a nuclear war. Striking a similar tone at what he described as an anxious time for the country, The head of the Russian Orthodox Church said trying to destroy Russia would mean the end of the world. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, Medvedev has repeatedly raised the threat of a nuclear apocalypse. But his admission now of the possibility of Russia's defeat indicates the level of Moscow's concern over increased Western weapons deliveries to Ukraine. And in sports news, West Ham United has brought English striker Danny Ings from Aston Villa for around £15 million today. Danny Ings joined the struggling West Ham to compete with Gianluca Scamacca, Michail Antonio and other members of the London club's frontline. Before he left Aston Villa, Ings scored 6 Premier League goals in 18 games this season. West Ham has only scored 15 goals in 19 league games this season, and this is largely to blame for their difficulties in the Premier League. And with that, we've come to the end of the news at this hour. Once again, my name is Elizabeth Anwood Fan. Thank you for watching.